What if I told you that three men changed an entire city without speaking a single word? No speeches, no protests, no grand gestures, just pure, uncontrollable laughter. And by the time you finish this story, you'll never look at happiness the same way again. In ancient China, there lived three monks who were unlike any spiritual teachers the world had ever seen. They had no temple, they wrote no scriptures, they gave no sermons, but wherever they went, something extraordinary happened. People transformed, and it all started with one simple, radical choice they made together. These three monks traveled from village to village with empty hands and full hearts. But here's what made them legendary. The moment they entered any town square, they would stand in the center, look at each other, and begin laughing. Not a polite chuckle, not a restrained giggle, but deep, belly-shaking, tear-streaming laughter that seemed to come from the very core of their being. At first, people thought they were insane. Villagers would gather around, confused and uncomfortable. "What's wrong with these men?" they'd whisper. "What are they laughing at?" But the monks never answered. They just kept laughing, their joy so pure and contagious that it seemed to crack open the gray shell of everyday life. Then something magical would happen. One person in the crowd would crack a smile, then another would chuckle. Within minutes, the entire marketplace would erupt in laughter. Strangers who hadn't smiled in years found themselves doubled over with joy. People who carried decades of pain felt something shift inside them, and nobody even knew why they were laughing anymore. They just were. The three monks would laugh for hours. When evening came, they'd simply stop, bow to the crowd with tears of joy still on their faces, and move on to the next village. No explanations, no lessons, no expectations. Years passed like this. The monks became famous throughout the land, but they never changed their practice. They never monetized their gift. They never wrote books about their technique. They simply laughed, and in doing so, gave people permission to remember something they'd forgotten. Joy doesn't need a reason. Then one day, one of the three monks fell ill. His brothers carried him to their usual spot in the village square, and they prepared to laugh as always. But this time, the sick monk couldn't make a sound. His body was too weak, his breath too shallow. So his two brothers did something beautiful. They laughed for him. They laughed twice as loud, twice as freely, pouring all their love into that laughter. And the sick monk, unable to produce sound, shook with silent laughter, his face radiating pure bliss. 3 days later he died, still smiling. Did his brothers mourn? Here's what they did. They continued laughing. They carried their brother's body to the cremation grounds and laughed through the entire ceremony. People were shocked. "How can you laugh when your brother has died?" they demanded. One monk finally spoke. The first words heard from any of them in decades. "We're laughing because our brother played the game of life perfectly. He laughed until his very last breath. He never wasted a single moment on unnecessary suffering. Why would we dishonor that with tears?" Here's what those three monks understood, that most of us forget. Happiness isn't something you chase. It's not a destination you reach after you get the job, the relationship, or the achievement. Happiness is a choice you make right now, in this moment, regardless of circumstances. Those monks weren't laughing because life was perfect. They were laughing despite life being impermanent, unpredictable, and sometimes painful. They chose joy as their rebellion against suffering. They chose laughter as their meditation. They chose to be ridiculously, unreasonably happy, and in doing so, they gave everyone around them permission to do the same. So here's my challenge to you. Sometime today, laugh for no reason at all, not because something's funny, not because you're entertained, but because you're alive, and that's reason enough. Those three monks proved that joy is contagious. Your laughter might just be the permission someone else needs to remember their own happiness. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to laugh today. And remember, the game of life is short. play it joyfully,